Have you ever been absolutely sure that something was real, only to have someone come along and tell you that it was a lie? Your mind is blown and you feel utterly confused because you know what you saw with your own eyes. Well, in today's video, we are going to talk about a man who arrived at an airport in the early 1960s, and no one could figure out where he had come from or where he was headed. What's even more strange is that no one could remember him being there at all. Some people believe that this man may have actually been a time traveler from another dimension. But if not, then how can so many people have completely forgotten about him? Join us as we look into the bizarre case of the man from Taured. Take a moment to look at the passport provided by the man from Tahoe. It looks just like any other passport, doesn't it? The name on the document is Carlos, and the photo clearly shows a man holding his passport. If we take a closer look, we can see the date of birth listed on the front right corner of the document. He was born on October 13, 1938, making him 24 years old when the incident we are talking about took place. There are also several stamps that indicate that this man traveled to Italy, Germany, and Austria before arriving in Japan. On June 1962, Mr. Carlos arrived at the Tokyo International Airport. The only problem was that he wasn't supposed to be there. You see, the man didn't have a ticket to get on any of the airplanes that day, and he certainly wasn't on any manifest. This makes it seem as though he simply appeared out of thin air. The staff of the airport were astounded because they couldn't find any record of him getting in or even being there at all. In fact, after searching through security footage, they realized that there was a 2-hour gap in which they knew nothing about what was going on. To make matters even stranger, there was also no record of him leaving the airport. No one knew how he had gotten in or how he got onto the airplane, but somehow he managed to do both without anyone noticing. When police searched his luggage, they found several peculiar items. These included a hotel key card from a place that didn't exist and a crumpled piece of paper with some indecipherable markings on it. They also found a fully packed suitcase with clothing that looked extremely modern for the time period. In fact, some of the brands they found were ones that wouldn't hit the market for several decades. The police also learned that Mr. Taured had checked into a hotel in Osaka 2 weeks prior to his arrival in Tokyo. Again, there was no record of him checking in or out. But once the police had entered the room, they found some very interesting things. For starters, the bed had clearly been slept in, yet the man himself was nowhere to be found. His suitcase was still there, but everything else was gone. The man seemed to have vanished into thin air. But perhaps the most disturbing thing that the police found in his room was a strange machine that they could unidentify. It appeared to be a briefcase with a small protrusion in the middle. On the top of the device, there were 4 buttons with letters that corresponded to different parts of the world. The police were baffled by this mysterious device, and they had no idea what it was used for. The man from Tahoe was described as a handsome Caucasian man who stood at about 5 feet 9 inches tall. When the police spoke to people who had seen him at the airport, they were told that he was polite and well-dressed. One of the things that really caught people's attention was his shoes. They were made of leather and buckled up the side. At the time, these types of shoes were unpopular in Japan, and people couldn't figure out why someone would wear them. There was also something else about the man that really stood out. Even though he was in Japan, he didn't appear to know the language. But when he spoke to people, he had a heavy American accent. Despite this, he was able to communicate with people using some sort of universal sign language. He was able to explain to them that he was a businessman who had come from Toronto, Canada. He told the Japanese authorities that his flight had taken off from New York and that he had merely changed planes in Europe before arriving in Tokyo. He said that he was headed to India on business. But that was about all the information he gave them. He refused to say anything else about himself or why he was there. The police were suspicious that this man might have been involved in some kind of illegal activity. After all, he had arrived at the airport without a ticket and had explained very little about who he was. They wanted to question him further, but the man refused to answer any of their questions. He remained silent the entire time and never gave away any information about himself. After searching his room and finding the mysterious device, the police became even more convinced that he was a spy. They interrogated him for days, but he never cracked and spilled the beans about what he was doing there. The police eventually lost interest in the case, and the man was released. But soon after, he disappeared again, and no one has seen him since. What do you think happened to the man from Taured? Do you think he was a spy, a time traveler, Or was he just a regular guy who had a really good story? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Some people believe that the man from Taured was actually a time traveler from another dimension. They say that he accidentally stumbled into our timeline and didn't know how to get back home. This would explain why he had such strange belongings and why he couldn't speak Japanese or English. He was simply too far out of his element and didn't understand where he was. If this is true, then it would also explain why the man from Taured was never found. Once he realized that he wasn't in his own time or place, he likely panicked and tried to hide. He may have thought that he was being chased or followed, so he constantly moved around and never stayed in one place for too long. He may have also been trying to send a message back to his own time, but the police simply didn't understand what he was saying. Of course, this is just a theory. There is no evidence to support the idea that the man from Taured was a time traveler. However, it is an interesting thought experiment. It makes us wonder if there really are other dimensions out there and if time travel is possible. This case remains unsolved to this day, and there is no one who can say for sure what happened to the man from Taured. Some people believe that he was a spy, while others think that he was a time traveler. However, the truth is that we may never know what really happened. The case of the man from Taured is a baffling one. All of the evidence points to the fact that he was a real person who did exist. However, there is no record of him anywhere. He literally vanished into thin air, and no one has seen him since. While we may never know the truth about what happened to the man from Taured, his case remains an interesting one that has captured the attention of many over the years. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out more content. With that said, thank you so much for watching, and be sure to tune in next time.